In the early years of the 20th century, the great ocean liners were the pride of the industrial world. Nations competed to build the biggest and most impressive ships ever seen. One vessel would soon become the most famous ship in history: the RMS Titanic. Titanic was built in Belfast at the enormous shipyard of Harland and Wolff for the White Star Line. Construction began in 1909. The scale of the project was astonishing. Titanic stretched more than 882 feet long and weighed over 46,000 tons. More than 15,000 workers helped build the ship, fitting together vast steel plates with millions of rivets. Slowly, the enormous liner took shape beneath the giant cranes of the Belfast shipyard. On the 31st of May, 1911, thousands gathered to watch as Titanic was launched into the water for the first time. The huge hull slid down the slipway and entered the harbour, marking the birth of what many believed would be the greatest passenger ship ever built. But the real magic of Titanic was still to come. Inside, Titanic was designed to feel less like a ship and more like a luxury hotel floating on the ocean. At the centre of the ship stood one of its most famous features: the grand staircase. Built from rich oak paneling and crowned with a beautiful glass dome, the staircase stretched across several decks. Elegant iron railings curved around the sweeping steps, while light poured down from above. Passengers entering this space often stopped in amazement. It looked more like the entrance hall of a palace than the interior of a ship. From the staircase, corridors led to luxurious first-class rooms decorated in styles inspired by famous buildings from across Europe. There was a French-style restaurant, elegant lounges, smoking rooms, and reading rooms where passengers could relax during the long Atlantic crossing. Titanic even featured facilities rarely seen on ships of the time. There was a swimming pool, a Turkish bath, a gymnasium with rowing machines and exercise equipment, and electric lifts connecting the decks. Passengers could take a walk along the wide promenades overlooking the sea, dine beneath glittering chandeliers, or simply sit and watch the endless Atlantic horizon. For wealthy travelers, the experience was extraordinary. First-class passengers could stay in private suites with their own sitting rooms, bedrooms, and private promenades. Yet Titanic was not designed only for the rich. Second-class passengers enjoyed comfortable cabins and spacious dining rooms that were better than first-class accommodation on many other ships. Third-class passengers, many of them emigrants heading to America, also traveled in surprisingly modern surroundings. Clean cabins, shared dining areas, and proper ventilation made the experience far better than older ships. For many of these passengers, the voyage represented something far greater than luxury. It represented a new life. Titanic was not just a ship. It was a symbol of the optimism and ambition of the early 20th century. A floating city carrying people toward the future. On the 10th of April 1912, Titanic began her maiden voyage. The ship departed Southampton, watched by large crowds gathered along the docks. The enormous liner slowly moved away from the harbour, beginning its first journey across the Atlantic. From Southampton, the ship travelled to Cherbourg to collect more passengers. It then made a final stop at Queenstown, known today as Cove. From there, Titanic turned west and headed into the vast waters of the North Atlantic Ocean, bound for New York City. On board were more than 2,200 passengers and crew. Among them were wealthy businessmen, families beginning new lives in America, engineers, musicians, sailors, and immigrants hoping for a better future. One of the most famous passengers was businessman John Jacob Astor, one of the richest men of the age. Commanding the ship was Edward Smith, a highly respected captain nearing the end of his long career. Life on board quickly settled into a comfortable rhythm. Passengers strolled the decks during the day, wrapped in coats against the cool Atlantic breeze. Evenings were filled with elegant dinners, conversation, music, and the quiet hum of the great ship moving through the ocean. Below deck, thousands of tons of coal were fed into roaring furnaces that powered the engines driving Titanic steadily westward. Day after day, the voyage progressed smoothly. The sea was calm. The sky was clear. To many people on board, the ship seemed almost unstoppable. But on the evening of the 14th of April 1912, as Titanic moved deeper into the cold North Atlantic, wireless messages began arriving from other ships. messages warning of ice ahead. Still, the great liner pressed onward through the dark water toward New York. Passengers slept peacefully in their cabins. High above the decks, lookouts scanned the horizon from the crow's nest. And somewhere ahead, drifting silently in the freezing Atlantic night, was an iceberg. The story of Titanic was about to change forever.